Welcome to the Season 8 off-season. Now, Season 8 was weird. I know I didn't go through who was on the team or what positions were good or anything like that, like I did maybe the last year of the Wolves. I'm sorry, I didn't really think of that until stuff started coming out, and I was like, oh, yeah, I never actually looked into the teams, but here we look at the awards with Chris Young winning another MVP with the Wolves. The Wolves were the best team in the league, built by me and built by the coach, Montana Young. He also won Offensive Player of the Year. And then their Defensive Player of the Year is Denny Parr as well. Rushing title goes to Jacquez with 2,600 rushing yards. Passing title goes to Chris Young. Receiving title goes to Shepard, our Shepard. And sack title goes to Brandon Dorsey with 24 sacks. That's one of the highest amount of sacks ever. It's insane. If you look here, we're looking at the league leaders. Again, Young was leading. And now O'Brien, Strauss, and Jacquez, and Banks, we all faced those teams, and they were hard to stop. Mauricio Shepard had 120 receptions. We gave him the ball as much as possible. We had to with Mike Fine, since he can't really run the ball, and this offense is based off the dual or even triple head running attack by a quarterback, running back, and running back. But Jason Peterson, the rookie, had an amazing rushing year. We look at the quarterbacks here, they all had really good seasons. We look at the star rookie quarterback, Nate Porter. He had an okay season with 27 touchdowns, 13 picks. And then also Dante McCurley, who was also, I think, a rookie this year, had 19 interceptions. He was a dual threat quarterback, and he played, I believe, in high school. He was a star in his high school with a little known quarterback behind him in J.C. Riley. But Riley never got the start because Dante McCurley always started. Now, this is very interesting, too, because Electric Johnson also had a great rookie year with 30 touchdowns and 6 picks. Funny enough, Nate Porter was known to be the better quarterback of the two, and Electric Johnson was more of a scrambling quarterback, so it's interesting to see that. And then we also look here at receiving, like we did a little bit earlier, and defense. Denny Parr was easily the best defensive player in the league. We look, he was absolutely destructive, like we always had seen when we were with the Wolves. And you just keep looking down. This was a good defensive year. Sadly, in the coming seasons, I suspect the defense will get worse and offense will explode due to some rule changes. But so far, Ezekiel Freeman is up there too. He had 12 interceptions. He led the league by 5. Showing that when Montana Young coaches a defense, that safety position becomes very, very aggressive. Now, here we are with the playoff tree. Blackbirds and Wolves, Revenge and Metal, Flight and Walleyes, and Bullheads and Guardians. The Wolves beat the Blackbirds. The Walleyes beat the Flight. The Metal lose to the Revenge, which is an upset. They don't even have a real quarterback. And the Guardians win as well. If we look here the next week, the Guardians lose to the Revenge. Somehow, the Guardians, who shut down the Bullheads, who have had a ridiculous season this year, have somehow come back and are now in the championship, and the Wolves destroy one of their rivals in the Walleyes to make it to the championship game as well. It's Wolves versus Revenge. It's a super stacked team versus literally a power team with a great defense. Who will win? And the winner is the Wolves. The Wolves absolutely destroy the Revenge 31-7. The Revenge, even though they have a great defense, did not deserve to be in the championship. It should have been the Bullheads or even the Guardians, the Metal. Even people who didn't make the championship or make the playoffs in general. But the Wolves have won another championship, this time without Montana Young, but there will be some big changes. The Season 8 retirements here. Brady Vaughn retires big star for the Wolves for years. Gets traded to, I believe, the Hogs for a while. They win a championship with Warren Tanka, and then he kind of floats around. He ends with the Giants, not doing particularly well, and he will become a head coach for the Stallions, which is big. You'll see in a bit. Mauricio McNally retires from the Stallions, so they lose another receiving threat. Quarterback Riley Kostick from the Blackbirds, they get to the playoffs finally, and he's forced to retire due to eye problems. Justin Atkinson, who 2 years ago had a tremendous career revival, bringing the Giants back and almost getting to the playoffs and then failing at the end. Stallions also lose Daryl Barnhill at CB. Danny Trails leaves from the flight. He retires. And Jager for the Griffins retires as well. I believe he was a young linebacker. He could not stay any longer. Now, I also want to say, I believe starting with Season 9, I mentioned this last offseason, but Season 9, well, there's a new offseason system. Every year, each team will have to get rid of one player, and it's randomly selected. There's no contracts, it's just randomly selected who will leave. This will give owners opportunities to keep big players next season by tagging them. And when you tag a team, tag a player I should say, you lose your first round pick. And there's only one round, so you lose your draft pick to keep this player. It will make it so there's more free agents every year. Now, the only ways that is subsided is A, you trade a player. Like a coach can trade a player away, and it will cancel that out. Or B, and that'll help the player too. If a player's not in a good situation, he can just leave whenever he wants. And B, the ownership will have less control when it comes to keeping players or losing them, because they're going to have to get rid of a draft pick. So that might make sense for a quarterback or even a wide receiver. But if it's an offensive lineman, it just wouldn't make sense. If it's not a superstar player, and it's only star players, there's no generics, rarely any coppers. It's going to be mostly gold to bronze. So if they just want to get rid of them, they can get rid of them. It's called the Montana Young rule, because the problem was the Wolves, when Montana Young was there, the ownership was bad. So they kept building teams through free agency and not wanting to pay them. So then they would just get rid of them, get picks, and then get worse players, or have to go through the undrafted free agents and pick them up. Also, so this will be the last year that all 24 teams will absolutely have a first-round pick, just for the fact that some teams will probably choose to tag a player. I'm speaking about this in the retirements, since there wasn't many retirements this year. Also, if a player retires, you do not lose a player in free agency, for the fact that it would make it too hard to then try to find another free agent to fill that spot, because there might not be a free agent for that spot, so you would have to draft one. But if you can't draft one, then if someone retires, then whatever. It gives more power to the players when it comes to retirements or leaving, or they can ask to stay, type deal. But here soon you're going to look at the free agents, and this is probably the best free agent class we have ever seen. Last year's was pretty good when it comes to big star players, but this year's really good as well. But like I said, that starts next season. I have like an actual person in the Discord who currently controls a team, and I do all the movements, and I just ask them and give them choices. If you want to do that, go to my Patreon, and I believe it's $10 a month. You can do that, and you can be a part and be a team and make changes and everything and be a part of this. Now, Season 8 free agents. This will be the last original like free agent class, so it's gonna be light, but it's gonna have big stars. Quarterback Patrick Anderson from the Patrick Anderson from the Stallions. Brady Vaughn's new team is leaving to go to the Revenge. He sees that the Revenge got it all the way to the championship game and lost on that stellar defense, and he wants one too. So now he's going to be playing with a lackluster receiving core, but oh my goodness, a great running game, great defense. That's going to be insane to face Patrick Anderson possibly almost every year again. Now, quarterback Alfred Blackson goes to the Stallions. A running quarterback in his last few years. He really hasn't become what he was in college. Quarterback Chris Young, the franchise, goes to the freaking Blackbirds. The Blackbirds have another stellar defense. They're like the Revenge. They just have always lacked at having star players on offense. They have Jaquan Oregon coming out of nowhere, becoming a superstar wide receiver. Caustic retires. Now they have quarterback Chris Young. Wide receiver Michael Ingram gets kicked out of Sacramento, and he's now with the Sailors. Rashad Gavin, star pass rusher, who's been kind of going downhill the past couple years, is going to the Cavalry from the Wolves. Donnell Childress from the Walleyes is leaving to go to our Dragons. So we'll have the two best defensive ends in the league in Donnell Childress and Brandon Dorsey on opposite sides. Then Seven Saunders goes to the Griffins to fill that spot as well. And lastly, Wes McNeil from the Metal is done with the Metal. He wants some money. He wants some, not just a good offense, because the Metal have a great offense, but just a more consistent offense with some actual star players, and he's going to the Flight. So we're going to have to face Wes McNeil twice a year for many years, because he's still in his prime. Now, in the next coming years, there will be more free agents, retirements. There even might be more retirements, and less draft picks. But if you guys want to become a draft pick, there's many ways to do it. Put your name in the comments down below. Put your name, your position, your number, and just like a little bit about yourself. Like if you're a deep threat wide receiver or a pocket quarterback. Now, here in a few, probably in the next week or so, I'm going to be releasing a video about how to specifically do it, how to become a player, and what positions I need for Season 10 off-season. That'll be coming soon. You can also do through the Discord and through my Patreon. So here we go with the draft this year. First pick goes to the Giants, and they pick up quarterback Drew Lowry. I believe this is the last season from my NCAA 16 dynasty I had, and this quarterback is a good quarterback. He was great in college. He had scramble ability and clutch. He's super clutch. His con is he's a questionable talent and questionable arm talent. No one really knows how great he really is. He's not extremely fast, but he can be a big player in big situations. Now the Dragons, they get John Wright as a run block mauler. He is a strong, run-heavy tackle, and he just needs development on technique. He's very strong. He can push back someone, but when it comes to pass blocking technique, he's going to beat almost every time. There is also a big thing here. You'll see in 1 second, I believe. Because number 3, the Hogs pick Richie Hung from the Discord. This team is owned by Richie Hung on the Discord. If you want to do it as well, become a Patreon down in the link in the description down below. His pro is his size and his big arm on tape, and his con is his decision making and accuracy. He can miss easy balls. Now, you say, how is he on the Hogs? Well, you'll see next video that there was a big trade that happened that I wasn't able to get, and also the Hogs select Bryson Bowtonio from the Discord as well. Same guy. He got 2 players since he owned the team. He has deep threat and he's big size. Both quarterback and wide receiver are 6'6", but his problem is his agility and route running isn't that amazing. And now, for the 5th pick in this year's draft, the Griffins, who are now the Las Vegas Lightning, select Marcus Kerrigan. He's a pass-blocking right tackle, but his problem is he has very low strength and he has a bad anchor. He's not really able to sit back and really hit the guy at a good height because he's a little too tall and he really needs to work on his technique. But in a pinch, he's a good help on that Lightning team. Now the Condors, they select linebacker Torin Black. He's a zone coverage linebacker. He lacks speed and run stuff ability. He's almost like a KJ Williams, which I forget if that's this draft or not. But he's very quick when it comes to very short spurts. But he has great zone ability and great ball instincts as well. Could move to middle linebacker very well. Now Sailors select Brian Freeman. Brian Freeman, he is a good middle linebacker who was good at pass rushing in college, but he's a big liability in zone. I really don't see him having a good future in this league. Sad for the Sailors to pick such a bad player at linebacker. The Sailors do really need linebacking help with only having KJ Williams and an aging Jess Strain, but can they continue this dominance? I don't think so in the next decade. Now Demons select the former Washington Redcoats select Kyler Anderson. He's a press corner, he's tall, and he's very strong. But the problem is he lacks speed and has very stiff hips, so he's not able to turn around and be very agile at all. He was really good in college, just shutting down big outside receivers, but when it came to slot guys, he had a really hard time. Can he be better in the league? Now number 9, the Warthogs select Brent Bobo. He is a speed, deep threat wide receiver, and he only ran a small route tree in college. That's his problem. We don't really know how good he will be in the league since he only ran streaks and posts all his whole career in college. But the Warhawks do need more receiving threats for that young quarterback of theirs, Shelby Woodley Jr. And now, number 10, the Revenge, who made a big signing in free agency. They select Jason Ortiz. He's a run stopper, and he lacks zone and tackling at linebacker. They do need more linebacking help to have more like a Blackbirds defense. But the problem is, Jason Ortiz just seems like a guy just being put into a slot. He's not very special at all. And now number 11, the Flight select Justin Merckx. He is a huge run blocker. The problem is he's super raw. It doesn't just need to work on technique in the pass blocking department, but also run blocking. He's just good at finding someone up the middle of the field and destroying them, instantly putting them on their butt. But he is still very young and very raw, so he could become a great guard in this league. This is a really good pickup, though, for the Flight. And now the Tigers, the former Chicago football team, who finally found a good name, select Brian Jackson. He's a solid guard as well. This was a good guard class. His pro is he's balanced and good at everything. He can run block, he can pass block. The problem is he's not elite. He's above average starter. He deserves a bronze rating, but it's not like he's super strong or has great pass blocking and great technique. He's gonna slot in and just become an amazing starter off the bat. And now here, the Monarchs, even though he's not a Patreon member anymore, he finally gets his player, Daniel Dodds, from the Patreon, becomes a Monarch. And it's weird. He is a copper quarterback and a gold CB. He plays two positions like Ty Banks. He has great speed. He's a two-way player. The problem is he's a project for both positions. He's just a speedy guy who needs to work on his coverage and his throw and his arm talent in general, but he's going to be great for the Monarchs. Now the Gladiators pick Dan Wright at defensive end. and he's a power pass rusher, and he lacks talent and potential. I don't know what the Gladiators are thinking. I think they think that their quarterback, because he has such great receiving threats, that all they need is defense. Well, you need a star player. You don't need Dan Wright at defensive tackle or defensive end. He's really not going to do very well on their defense. Now, Cavalry select a great center, probably the best center in this whole draft, in Sean Nelson. He's a great mind and a future star. He lacks elite strength, though. If he faces a great D tackle, he's just going to be put flat on his butt every time. But he's a great mind, and he has great potential. He's going to become probably the best center here in the next couple years. And next, the Firebirds select Matt Schmidt. The Firebirds started out really hot this season, and they fell off really hard with Neve Watt's play kind of going down because their offensive line's kind of he is a solid starter, but he won't grow as a player. I believe he's on defense, but he just won't be great. Again, I don't know what the Firebirds are thinking. I think they just think they need to slide someone in who's better, which he is, but not much. Now the Stallions, they select Tyler Jones, one of the best CBs in this class. He has good speed, good man coverage. His con is he is bad at tackling and honestly bad at zone coverage. So he's not going to get beat in man very much. But I think like Brady Vaughn wants to start with getting this defense right, and then maybe selecting a running back down the line. With their bridge quarterback currently there, I don't know exactly what the Stallions will do. I think they're in a rebuild process. Now the Crusaders select Ted Calhoun, a great prototype finesse rusher. He says he's a silver. I would say he's going to start out more as a bronze player or even a copper player. He lacks a lot of strength. He's going to get bullied in the run game. I can't really call him a silver, but he has great pass rushing skills. He just needs, because he uses a lot of his good bend to get around, especially because he's very tall and very thin, but he really needs to gain some weight and gain some strength. The Blackbirds now select Sean Murphy. His pro is he's a balanced tackle. He's good at pass blocking, run blocking, everything, and his con, he has low strength. He just has low strength. Especially for a bronze tackle. The Blackbirds want to help solidify that line with Chris Young at quarterback, so wondering if that's going to help out a lot here. Now the Walleyes get new uniforms this year, and they select Danny Parker. He's a good nose tackle, but he needs to work on his pass rush ability. He can really slot in and take up many blockers with his size, but he's not very athletic. He's not very fast. He's not going to get at the quarterback every play. Really, he's a 2-down D tackle, but they're going to use him all 3 downs probably, since he's better than most of their D tackles, and they need help with the loss of Childress. Now Guardians select Danny Johnson. He's a great wide receiver. He's from that Texas dynasty that I had. And he's a balanced receiver, good speed. He played quarterback for most of his college career, changed to receiver his final year, and he had a great year, and he's now here in the league, starting for the Guardians, and he's only going to get better. He's a little bit on the older side, but I see a great future for Danny Johnson. Now, the Bullheads select Omar Reed. He's a project D tackle for the Bullheads who need a better defense. That's what failed them. They finally had a clicking offense, which they haven't had in years, and their defense let them down, and they select kind of a letdown as well. He's very strong. He was awesome in the combine, but he's a project D tackle. He's going to need help, and it's not years that Al Frills, their great starting quarterback, future Hall of Famer, can really waste. Now, Metal select a big star here. He fell down in the draft since he didn't know if he really could play cornerback. He played free safety in college, but here he falls to a team that runs a lot of zone, and he's a big hitter, big potential, TJ Palmer. Yet he lacks elite speed and lack of cornerback technique, but if you put him in zone and you play him in the run game, he's going to annihilate every player on offense. He's a special talent. And the Wolves, who win the championship, select wide receiver Casey Smith. He's a tall, big wide receiver. Not usually what Montana Young would try to pick up if he still was with the Wolves. And they select Casey Smith, who has good route running and good hands, but he's a project. Now, thank you guys for watching. Next video, we'll see the new trade that happened, and you'll see the new Dragons team, and I'll see you then.